A fortuitous event is any event which cannot be foreseen or which, though foreseen, is inevitable. Stated otherwise, it is an event which is either impossible to foresee or impossible to avoid. The essence of fortuitous event consists of being a happening independent of the will of the debtor or obliger, and which happening makes the normal fulfillment of obligation impossible. Fortuitous event is unexpected and unavoidable, meaning nga antayo maliklikan no anaman ti mapasama kita aglawlaw tayo. Example get COVID-19. Fortuitous event distinguished from force majeure. Number 1, acts of man. Strictly speaking, fortuitous event is an event independent of the will of the obliger but not of other human wills. Example, war kaslay jay Russia and Ukraine kastamit tagtakaw rebellion can murder. Number 2, acts of gods. They refer to what is called major or those events which are totally independent will of every human being. Meaning nakit awan kinalaman tayo na iso nakit natural disasters kasjay kuma.
There are two kinds of fortuitous events. First, the ordinary fortuitous event. Second is the extraordinary fortuitous event. So let's go first on the ordinary fortuitous event. Ordinary fortuitous event is those events which are common and the contracting parties could reasonably foresee. Ordinary fortuitous event is connected to the act of God, because just like the ordinary fortuitous event, they are both connected with a natural occurrence. Ordinary fortuitous events are the events which are commonly happen, reasonably foreseeable, and inevitable. Inevitable means a situation that is unavoidable. Ito yung mga pangyayari na hindi natin maiiwasan. One example of this ordinary fortuitous event is flooding during typhoon. Normally, pag binalita sa radyo o sa TV na may darating na typhoon, ine-expect na or nakikita na may magagawang baha or magkakaroon ng baha. That is an ordinary fortuitous event. The extraordinary fortuitous event. Those events which are uncommon in which the contracting parties could not have the reasonably to foresee. The extraordinary nature of fortuitous event calls for extraordinary measures, while indeed its exact date of happening is impossible to foresee. This extraordinary fortuitous event is also connected to the act of man. Ordinary fortuitous event is also connected to the act of man, because this extraordinary fortuitous event is there's an involvement of a human. Ito yung mga pangyayaring hindi natin inaasahan na mangyari sa mga oras na iyon. Yung wala tayong nakikitang rason na maaring mangyari ang isang sitwasyon sa mga oras na iyon. One example is war. Kapag ba nakita natin ang isang grupo ng tao, sila'y nasalo-salo, nag-iinuman, at masayang nagkwakwentuhan, syempre wala tayong makita na may magaganap palang kaguluhan. That is the example of the extraordinary fortuitous event.
Hi everyone. Today I will going to discuss the requisites of fortuitous event. First is the cause of the breach is independent of the debtor's will. Dapat malaya ni debtor no anaman ti hayat na ubraen haan nga isuda ti agi control over the happening of the event. Number 2 is the event is unforeseeable or unavoidable. For example, kama kaslang tay earthquake, hantay may iwasan or inaasahan nga agka-earthquake dito. The event is such as to render it impossible for the debtors to fulfill his obligations in a normal manner. Dapat ada kontrata la. Tapnon tuparin ni debtor tay obligasyon na sa maayos na paraan. Number 4. The debtor did not take part in causing the injury to the creditor. The creditor shall have the right to the indemnity for damage when, through the fault of the debtor, all the things which are alternatively the object of the obligations have been damaged, or the compliance of the obligation has become impossible.
Exceptions to general rule. Exceptions means the act of accepting or fact of being accepted omission, or anything excluded from or not in conformance with general rule, principal class, etc. Like ni teacher ko maialaw na nga maipasala tatay activity uray laten kasi di mo na obra. Uray ko na nga usually don't let students send in any assignments late kung inconsider na lata recent circumstances with your family is willing to make an exemption kajay. General rule matkat usual way of doing things. As a general rule, they offer a deal in such cases. Tay tulagan. Kajay. You must follow, obey, observe the rules. You must not break the rules. Example, the exceptions to general rule cut overpay that refers to the additional compensation for work performed beyond 8 hours per day. Kay naglabos ti pinagubram iti pagubraam. Di general rule na detang example ko kat bawal ang forced overtime. Tapos the exemption na kat kapag may emergency o kaya ay may kailangan tapusin na trabaho na makakasama sa kumpanya kapag hindi natapos agad. Note, kapag ikaw ay na-late, hindi ito pwede offset ng overtime. Ito ay dahil may dagdag 25% sa kada oras na sweldo ang overtime. In no demand, no delay. This is rule is spelled out by Article 1169 of the Civil Code, where those obliged to deliver or to do something incur a delay from the time the obligee or the person to whom an obligation is owed. Judicial or extrajudicially demands fulfillment of the obligation. Talakayin natin ang Article 1169 na Civil Code ng Pilipinas kung saan i-discuss ang konsepto ng no demand at no delay, exception to the rule. Except are told, ibig sabihin, ang pag di ka nag-demand, walang delay. There are two types of delay. One is ordinary delay and legal delay. Example, the ordinary delay, due date kat April 14, 2022, aging gana itakat awan pay tay deliver, pero awan pay demand. Ijay no pa sumurot ni ordinary delay, ngum awan pay legal delay. Tapno agkaroon legal delay, kailangan ag-demand kun si ka mismo ag-demand either judicial or extrajudicial demand. Pag nagbayad ka ng kaso sa korte, judicial demand. Pag di ka nag-file at sinabi mong kay debtor, mag-deliver ka na, pag di mo din-deliver, yun yung extrajudicial demand. So let's go back to exception, the are told. Are means reciprocal obligations. Example, no gumatang ka sardinas, nagbayad ka. Inted na tay sardinas, reciprocal no ka. No di namot inted dagos tay ginatang mo, automatically delay. Second exemption, time is of the essence. Example, nagpaaramid cut cake o sarum no birthday mo, July 7, 2022. Nga mausar, tas July 7, madi nag-deliver ni debtor, automatically legal delay. O naman, obligation expressly provides. Example, nag-loan ka, tapos contract of loan, nakaka-bilgi payment shall be each and first day, every first day of month without need of any demand. Yung mismong usapan, nakalagay demand is no longer necessary. You have to pay on that particular date without need of any demand. L means laws provide. Pag tinignan mo yung income tax law dito sa Pilipinas, malalaman may nakalagay na you have to pay or file your income tax of time. Dahil ang pagbabayad ng income tax ay kailan every April 15, pag di ka nakabayad, automatically in delay because of National Inter-Revenue Code or income tax laws sa Pilipinas provides that no demand is necessarily. So lastly, the demand will be useless pag si debtor nag-oblige to give creditor a specific horse, kunwari horse that Blue Eagle ang pangalan. Specific horse kailan? May 19, 2022. Ngayon ay April 25, 2022. So matagal pa, kalahating buwan pa to go. Pero namatay yung kabayo, so di na kailangan maghintay si creditor ng hanggang May 19, 2022 para mag-demand. Why? Because by the demand will be already be useless.
These are the illustrative case for fortuitous event. First is a law or stipulation expressly undeclared. When do we determine when expressly specified by law? An exception, the special strictness of law is justified. The debtor is guilty of fraud, negligence, or delay, or contraventions of the tenor of the obligation. For example, in this, S is obligee and B is the obliger. S is obliged to deliver a specific horse to B on August 10. S did not deliver the horse on said date. If on August 11 the horse died because it was hit by lightning, S is not liable if no demand was made by B. His obligation is extinguished. If the horse died after the demand was made by B, S is liable for damages because he is guilty of a legal delay. In this case, the obligation of S to deliver the horse is also extinguished but is not converted into monetary obligation to pay damages. If the horse would have died in any events, even no demand had been made by B, S would still be liable. A debtor in default becomes liable even for loss due to a fortuitous event. However, the court may reduce the amount of damages. Also, when do we determine when declared by stipulation? The basis for this exemption rests upon the freedom of contact. Such as stipulation is usually intended to better protect the interests of the creditor and procure greater diligence on the part of the debtor in the fulfillment of his obligation. But the intention to make the debtor liable even in case of fortuitous event should be clearly expressed. Second is when the nature of the obligation requires the assumption of risk. Here, risk of loss or damage is an essential element of the obligation. For example, in this, B is the obliger and C is the obligee. B insured his house against fire for 100 pesos with C, an insurance company. Later, the house was destroyed by accidental fire. Although the cause of the loss is a fortuitous event, B may recover the amount of the policy. In a contract of insurance, C, in consideration of the premium paid off by B, undertakes to indemnify the latter of the loss of the thing insured by reason of the peril insured, against even if the cause of the loss is a fortuitous event.
Obligation is other than an obligation. To give a specific thing. Example is obligation to give generic thing. Example lagi pangget obligasyon. No, ano obligasyon mo tibiyag? Sila kung obligasyon mo to ta pamilyam nga protektaran. Obligasyon mo nga aglako halo-halo kasjay. Kasla na ikasta tabiyag mo nga obraenen. Ken ada kanya tay nga obligasyon. Pero han amin ket alaen tayo. Generic thing makunaket na general ti obligasyon mo. Pero iti may isa lang nga banag haan nga iso amin. Number 4, debtor is already in delay. Rowell promised to give his chef knife with the brand home gallery to Noel to deliver on October 25, 2021. Suppose Rowell did not deliver the chef knife on October 25 when Noel demanded it. In this case, Rowell incurs delay. Te example na kat kasla kumano binaganda kat ti regalo nga pinakakaykaya mo. Kasla kumaikanda kat cellphone nga iPhone. Tumalpas graduate mo pero salang na ited idi ti malpas 2 bulan. Kasla nala daw ken syempre excited kan. Pero idi nalpas graduation mo ket napaay ka isod data. Debtor isod na nagkautang or parang nagkautang kanyam ti may isa nga tao nga nangibaga or nagpromise kanyam nga ikan nakati may isa nga bagay nga inikan na ti petsa.